a system approaching perfection.
We'll walk deeper into the belly of the beast if it means I'm able to...
All right, this is Danny from The Crypto Show, and I'm here at Voice and Exit 2018. I'm talking with Glenn Carty, and Glenn Carty is one of the people here that's talking about blockchain. And he's got some interesting projects going, and one of them is particularly interesting to us because of the things that we've been involved in the past. But so, Glenn, tell us about the first one, not the charity aspect one, but the other one,
BlockDevices.
BlockDevices. What do you hope to accomplish with BlockDevices?
I mean, essentially, we're working on infrastructure. So the idea is to take household appliances, not like your refrigerator, but more robust appliances like your router or maybe gaming systems, and then leverage those for their computing power, not just for mining, but for other applications.
And I mean, so what would the average person need this for? I mean, how would they be able to use that?
You know, it's geared on the consumer side. It's geared towards them having some sort of additional revenue stream, kind of the tokenization part of it. But where it's really focused is on the application side, where developers have a platform that's decentralized and allows them to be decentrally creative,
right?
Without having to go and find that or build that community.
So it would be similar to like a mining network where Bitcoin miners are all over the world, but they're contributing.
Exactly, but you've got to grow those networks, right? So the Bitcoin network and the Ethereum network, those are mature networks, and you don't need such a robust network for every project. So probably on a little bit smaller scale, but still giving you some of the benefits of having things be decentralized.
And I think you had mentioned actually Filecoin, but this will be a lot like MadeSafe and storage and Filecoin, Siacoin, all these where
I mentioned
farming, right?
Exactly. And I mentioned Filecoin because I'm a fan of theirs and I use the IPFS, and I like the peer-to-peer approach. But essentially, there are other coins that are similar.
Okay. Let's get into the other thing, the charity aspect. Now, we worked on something at Hurricane Harvey, and what you were talking about. So tell me what your experience is with the hurricanes. You worked with Hurricane Maria, or?
Yeah, so Irma and Maria, actually.
Maria?
Yeah, so I'm based in Miami, but I'm from the Virgin Islands, and so when Irma came through, I saw the need. And I was speaking with people there, and I really saw the task we had at hand recovering. And so I started a relief group called Virgin Islands ASAP Relief. Myself and fellow business owners, the private sector, like we spoke about. And so we flew in there to help, and we ended up in Maria, actually going through that storm, and got that experience firsthand as well. But assisted with recovery, and the private sector, a lot of the business owners, small business owners, medium, big business owners were able to provide the much needed help immediately after the storm.
Yeah, well, we went into Hurricane Harvey at basically the same time. I mean, the hurricane was still actually going on when we went in. It passed and was heading over towards the Houston area, so we come kind of back on the back end of it and followed our way through it. But what did you run into during Maria as far as water and things like that? What were the problems? What I'm getting at, I guess, really is that was it the individual or the government that you've seen who were actually able to do these things?
Yeah, so I think you probably saw the same, which is why you bring that up. Yeah. The individual, the small businesses and the individual themselves, in a lot of cases, were able to act faster and move faster than the government. And no discredit to them, but they've got a lot of hurdles to go through to get things done, where we were on the scene and we were able to put things together. I think something that we've spoken about in the past, unfortunately, sometimes the government doesn't see the good that the private sector can do, and they kind of become a barrier to that in a sense.
But not just a barrier, more than a barrier, an obstacle, actually. Yeah. I mean, the things that we ran into, problems that we actually ran into. So NRG Center was basically like the Superdome from
Katrina.
Hurricane Katrina. Mm-hmm. So NRG Center was the version of that. And when we went in there, they were actually telling us, no, we don't need donations, right? No more donations needed. There were signs out there. There were police posted outside that wouldn't let us in with our supplies. Wow. Because we were actually, at that point, we were dumb enough to ask for permission. So they redirected us to another center, the George R. Brown Center. So we went there, same thing. Well, by this time, I see the pattern, so I loop back around to the other side of the building and I just start helping people. Screw them, I'm not asking for permission anymore. Well, I find that the things that were needed were actually needed, even though they're turning you away. Those things were needed. So the next day we go back to NRG Center and we just ignore them and go to the back, act like we know what we're doing, and then we learn of a way that we can sneak our things in. So we sneak all of these supplies into the center, and they definitely need it. Like they have the things, but they're hidden from the people in back rooms and they won't hand them out. So we're sneaking in towel packages and all these other supplies that were needed.
Yeah. We saw something similar, and it's one of those things I always try to think from all different angles, and I can see where an organization, whether it be government or not, may be concerned that some other rogue, as you consider them, or private organization is going to create an issue because you're going to come in and create inequalities in a situation where people are needing things.
Right.
But I think what they underestimate is the power of the community, and so especially in the Caribbean, I can speak firsthand for that, where a lot of the communities got together and did a lot of things. Like we got support from a company called Cambium and another company called Ubiquity, which are competitors, and they both sent in supplies to provide Wi-Fi to help another company of ours provide free internet. And so it's one of those things where the government doesn't really give any leeway, but if there were some leeway and ways to work with these organizations, there would be a lot more things happening at least earlier on, because we can get around, or we don't have as much red tape.
Right.
We can definitely just use donations and purchase things and then provide receipts, so forth, and deliver supplies.
Yeah, I think we had actually spoke to a guy named Jason Siebert who did Church of Blurk, and he went in to Dominica, and he had the same situation where it was an island that was actually divided. I don't know if it was Dominica or one of the other islands.
St. Martin. Where you got French and Dutch.
French and Dutch. And he said on the French side it was totally screwed, and the Dutch side they were like open for business just like that, because they were smart enough to get the hell out of the way and just let people help, rather than have government rules that divided it. Like they turned the airport into not only a place for people to stage, but they opened a bar right away and had air
the drinking on,
had all of the things that people would need, because they weren't in the way. Government wasn't in the way of getting these things done.
That is a very good point. I think BVI had something similar happen, where they had some roadblocks and some stumbling blocks some issues with private organizations helping, and private organizations did a lot. I know particularly we worked with VG Rock, which is in Virgin Gorda, and we worked with some other entities there. I can't recall at the moment. But the overall theme was that the private sector was really delivering the services as fast as we could.
Yeah, like with Texas, you have the Cajun Navy, which they were using an app like Zello or something like this. Zillow. I don't recall the exact name of the app, but they were using the app to dispatch everybody. And we had bought a boat, and we branded it with Dash, and we actually sent it down there. And for the most part, we were able to get in and out, and we pulled 30 people out of the water. But there were some areas where they were turned away by law enforcement. And one of the things that I noticed actually was, with NRG Center, we're in Houston and things are big and the FEMA's in charge there, and that's where you got turned away. But I ended up in this other small town where it was just a small town sheriff. I think it was called West Columbia or something like that. They actually were glad to see us there, and they would point us in the right direction and told us what to do. So, when it was more, centralized to the local authority, it was much more cooperation. But whenever the feds are in there, it's like you got to sneak in and find all these crazy ways of doing things.
Yeah, and I think the thing to remember is the feds aren't necessarily in their element, right? I mean, I don't think they have an element because they're federal, right? So when you get into these communities, a lot of the local law enforcement, they understand, right? Yeah. It's their families, their friends that need help, and they understand, well, hey, if you've got something that can help us and you're willing to give it to us, we're going to help you get there, we're going to help you help someone, we're going to help you make it work. And so when the feds come in place, it's a different story. You know, they're into to control and try to keep everything orderly, and sometimes it just gets in the way.
Okay, so the name of your what's the name of your organization again for the charity relief, and give me some ideas that you think might work better in these situations.
So I'll end on one of yours. If I'm not mistaken, you guys were giving out donating crypto. During the time, right?
No, what we did is we took the cryptocurrency and we went to Walmart and bought everything in the store, and then we packaged it up and we would go directly to the city. And what you'll find is in each one of these cities you're going to have kind of a central point where everybody comes together, and that's where the Salvation Army or whatever will show up. And again, it's these private churches and stuff that show up, and they're the ones handing out the food. And I'll give you the example, Rockport. It was a church from Laredo or McAllen that actually showed up and was handing out hundreds and hundreds of meals every day. We were set up right alongside of them. On the other side of that was the National Guard, and you have all the National Guard just standing around with guns guarding ice. Like, go help someone cut a tree down or something. You know, what do you need 10 people with machine guns guarding ice for? Just hand it out.
As it melts.
Right. Like, why are you even here?
Yeah, definitely a different focus, I guess.
Yeah.
But the reason I asked about the crypto, you asked me what's next or what.
Yeah, I mean, what you guys are doing something with crypto to try to help facilitate charity in this kind of emergency situations.
Precisely. So during the events and immediately after the events, we saw what the needs were and we assisted with them. But one of the things that we realized is that, and everyone who's in disaster relief knows this, the next thing that comes in place is the economy, right? And financial relief to some extent. And so we're investigating ways to use crypto to help aid that problem. I'm not going to use the word solve there because you have to rebuild an economy. It's foolish to think that donating a few crypto here and there will actually rebuild that. There's work to be done there, and the federal government assistance is needed. But there's that gap where they're still starting to act, and everyone still needs assistance. So
they're busy making a plan while everyone else is already in action. Right?
So wedging ourselves in that gap, having a solution for that problem where you can bolster not say the entire economy, but the communities where needed to continue to supply and jumpstart the community.
Right. And but so you're using the blockchain to actually kind of prove where the funds are going and how they're helping.
Exactly.
But how do you actually find the people to implement that? That's the key thing, because I mean, an idea is only so good until if there's no one to put it into action, it's just an idea.
So I guess our solution there is taken from the community, right? So you get someone close to the community that cares about the project, and then work the project from that perspective, as opposed to saying just taking a random team and saying, not that they won't care, they will, but those in the situation have a different understanding.
You guys plan on having an application, a phone app where people do it? I'll take it right here in Austin. We worked with Arcade City, which is one of the people that are speaking here, and we teamed up together on an idea that came from Jason King, where he made an app in Baltimore that would connect homeless people who are hungry to restaurants who had too much food. So you have these two entities. Now, how do we get the food from the restaurant to them? Well, we need Uber drivers. Let's get Uber drivers on there too. So that was the idea. We would have Uber drivers would sign up, and they would be the ones to volunteer to take that food. Well, he displayed that here at South by Southwest. And we had him on our radio show, and we were talking about it. I'm like, man, that's a great idea. Well, then all of a sudden, Arcade City comes to Austin, and we have this Facebook centric group of drivers. So we have a social group of drivers, and I just put it out there like, hey, I'm starting a group, and we need some drivers. With that day, there was 100 drivers signed up. The following day, it was 200 drivers. And within a few days, we created this thing where we're getting food from restaurants, we're getting food donated from people, and we're just going around feeding the homeless. And it just happened like that, while the app just struggled. The app, we were actually in a competition with him, and the app was nowhere near what we were able to accomplish with Facebook. I don't know.
Yeah, the technology can always be a challenge.
Yeah.
So I guess when I said the community, you definitely got your community involved from an end user perspective.
Yeah.
I was referring to the community of developers, right? So we have a natural talent that's there in the Caribbean, and part of this is still, our group's focus is still very much so, and we were Virgin Islands focused. We assisted with BVI and Puerto Rican Virgin Islands as well, right, and Puerto Rico, but the idea is to use developers from that community. And me, myself included, right, and friends of mine included, to mentor and also to guide the project, to implement a solution where you ask whether it be mobile solution, a solution where you have the ability to distribute and provide that end funding to other organizations and also to individuals in some cases, creating some transparency in the donation stream.
Yeah,
because for example, we got personally did fundraisers on not GoFundMe, Indiegogo.
Yeah.
And so essentially the public would like to see and needs to see where those funds are going, right? What they're used on. We tried our best to put on Facebook, to post on Facebook what we were doing. You were seeing all of our activities and so forth. But using blockchain, just to hashtag that, right?
Right.
Using blockchain and using any sort of cryptocurrency such as Dash and providing that transparency throughout the whole chain, the supply chain and the donation chain is key.
Yeah, that's cool. I would recommend that you have a look at unsung.org. They have an app, and one of the ideas behind this app is that when you're donating the food or receiving the food, whatever, or transporting it, that you would take a picture and you put it up there, and so you're getting like these karma points and stuff for engaging, doing things with it. So it's pretty interesting. That's kind of your reward or incentive in doing it. You get your face up there. I did that. All right. So
nice. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
But, cool. So where do you see it taking off at? I mean, how soon will you be ready for the next storm or the next?
Yeah.
I mean, are you headed to Hawaii now or what?
Exactly. The thought did cross my mind.
I'm thinking about Hawaii right now myself.
Yeah, exactly. You hit the nail on the head. Not just the next storm, right, but the next disaster, right? So ideally, yes, it's great to have this work for the Virgin Islands, but truthfully, it's about disasters and have this work for hurricanes, but it's more than that, right? It's about fires, it's about floods, it's about tornadoes, volcanoes. Once again, right? It's about a plethora of different natural disasters that could happen to us. And so, ideally, the vision is to have this this framework or this software solve that small problem, right? And bolster economies.
We had, I guess. We had selfish reasons, I think, for doing this in the beginning. Bitcoin, blockchain, and everything was so shadowed by the drug market and everything. So it was always this negative connotation about what Bitcoin was. And so we started doing, different charity events and stuff like that. And then we just kind of like, man, this is really awesome. So I really became fond of doing that, and it's just been part of our show ever since. So.
Yeah, exactly. I think this space could lend a lot to not just 501c3s, but just any sort of transfer, especially donations. Not just the transparency, but the ease. And I mean, it works.
Right. So are you looking for developers or people to help contribute to this project? Because if it's a charity project, then obviously you want people to charitably help on
Put that out there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
everyone come along. Yeah, no, definitely. We're always looking for talent. I mean, it's not just about keeping it to ourselves and keeping it closed and developing and then launching something amazing. Although from an entrepreneurial perspective, I'm so used to doing that with projects, keeping them stealth and then trying to grow them. But no, we're open. We're actively looking. You've got our website via asaprelief.org, and our Facebook page is there as well. And anyone that's capable of coding, come along.
All righty, there you have it. Thanks.